In this episode, I'm going to ask you 3 questions that will change the way you make decisions and hopefully help you make choices that are actually aligned with you rather than with what's expected of you.
Hey you! Welcome to Selfish Me. I'm Cam, a business psychologist and a proud late bloomer who finally stopped living by everyone else's rules. And this is your space to pause, reconnect, and build a life that feels true to you. Because putting yourself first isn't selfish, it's powerful.
Hey you, last week we talked about the messy middle part of change, and your response was so generous. One of the comments was from Kathy. Just listened to your change episode. Made me feel a bit emotional, but in a good way. And it's so relatable. I am sure so many people will connect with it too. Thank you so much, Kathy. I really appreciate it. Also, I got a question from Harriet about an episode on burnout recovery. How did you know when to start again after a burnout? And I think that's such a good question from Harriet because captures something truly universal, starting again. Because after any big or even small life event, there comes a point where you have to decide what's next. And suddenly you have to take that first step. And that first step can feel huge. And sometimes you don't even know where to start. And that's the hard part, I think personally. And before I tell you how I decided what steps to take, I want to give you a bit of context. Because I think the full story matters. And maybe, just maybe, you will recognize a little bit of yourself in it. So, what really shook me wasn't actually the diagnosis of burnout, depression, and anxiety. It was what the psychiatrist said to me afterwards. But let me tell you a story first. The day before I saw the psychiatrist, I was at TK Maxx with a friend, doing some shopping. My mom called me. She told me that my grandma was having a surgery and that they didn't think she was gonna make it. I asked her to keep me updated and send her my love. Do you know what my brain thought? This is the part where I want to be really vulnerable with you. I will have a reason to be sad. I'll have a reason to go home. I will finally have a reason to take a break from my life. And I remember thinking, how horrible is that? Am I a horrible person? I must be. And that was the moment I realized something was really wrong. If you ever had a thought that made you think, oh my gosh, does this make me a horrible person? I want to remind you of something. You are not your thoughts. Our thoughts are products of so many things. Our experiences, our emotions, our stress level, our nervous system, everything that's happening around us. A thought can exist without being who you are. Now back to the story. The next morning, my mom called me to tell me that my grandma has passed away, which broke my heart, and I felt so guilty for having those thoughts. The same morning, I went to see the psychiatrist. She said something that genuinely scared the life out of me. If you don't make changes in your life, it will get worse. And I remember thinking, how could it get worse? Because in my head, I was already at the rock bottom. And I know we all have different definitions of what rock bottom looks like. What breaks one person might not break another. But for me, at that point, I genuinely felt like I was already there. So hearing someone to tell me that I could get worse was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. I literally was told something has to change. But the question was, what? And how do I actually know what the right next step is when you're already overwhelmed? And that's what I want to talk about today. Because I don't think we always need a 5-year plan. Sometimes we just need a way of making the next decision. And I'm going to share my secret weapon to help you do exactly that and then how to use it. But first, let me tell you what this secret weapon actually is, because this one might just shock you to your bones. My secret weapon was establishing my values. I know what you might be thinking. Values, come on. We all know what values are. It's not a secret weapon. And this is exactly where I want to challenge you. But before I do, let's start with the definition so we're all on the same page. Values are guiding principles that shape our actions, decisions, and behavior. Things like honesty, compassion, responsibility. Sounds simple, right? But here is the thing. We don't just magically wake up one day and decide what our values are. A lot of our values are inherited. We get them from our parents, our families, from religion, from our culture, from the communities we grow up in. And the question I start asking myself was, how many of these values are actually mine? How many genuinely feel like me? Because there is a difference between a value you have consciously chosen and something you have simply been taught is important and that we should be doing it. Let me give you example. For a very long time, I would have said that family was one of my core values, and I genuinely believe it was. But when I started looking at my values more closely, I realized something. Family was much more connected to my culture than it was to my personal value system. And I was actually scared to admit that. Because somewhere in my head, I had created these rules. If I don't put family high on my list of values, does that make me a bad person? Does that make me a bad daughter? Does that mean I won't be a good partner? And I realized how much of my decision making had been influenced by values I had never actually stopped to question. So, family is no longer one of my top 3 values. And I know that might sound like a small thing, but for me, it was huge. Because once I started separating what I genuinely value from what I had been taught to value, my decisions became so much clearer. Before I share my top values with you, I will warn you now. The last one might surprise you. And also, I want to pause here for a second to think about your top 5 values. What comes to your head straight away? And think of your values as your internal compass, the things that guide you, influence your choices, and tell you what feels right or wrong for you. No one else. Okay? So, top 5. You can write them down, or you can say them out loud, or you can say them in your head. You got them? Perfect. Now, I'm going to ask you 3 questions and see if those values will come up as the answer for those questions. This is a little bit of a natural selection kind of exercise. Number 1, what matters to you when you are making a big decision? Number 2, what do you want your life to stand for? And number 3, what are the things you don't want to compromise on, even when it wouldn't be easier to do so? Okay, now, out of those 5, how many are left and how many new values came up for you? This is a simple exercise to help you do a little bit of a value audit, I would say. If you want to go deeper, spend a little bit more time on this. I will add the questions into the notes section so you can go back to them. Now, my values are purpose, courage, honesty, kindness, and experience. Now, maybe the last one surprised you, experience. And let me tell you why I chose that one. I genuinely believe that life is a collection of experiences. Some experiences we choose, some we simply go through, some are difficult, some we never ask for, and some we might even regret. But I realized that I don't want my life to just be a collection of things that happen to me. I wanted to consciously create more of the experiences I actually wanted to have. Experiences that bring me joy. And a simple example is this, the experience of having a slow morning. For years, I would wake up and open my laptop straight away before I had breakfast, and that would make me feel stressed from the moment I opened my eyes. And now having a slow morning means I can ground myself. It means I start with my well-being before I let the noise of outside world get to me. It means I'll have the energy and the resilience to deal with whatever is coming because I took extra 15 minutes in the morning to look after myself. So now, back to the question, how did you decide what steps to take to uncover from burnout? And for me, that answer was, I used my values. That we already spoke about it. They helped me prioritize what I wanted to focus on first, what I was willing to put on hold, and most importantly, what I wanted my life to actually feel like. And I think the way I started to think about the burnout has also changed. I no longer see it as something that happened to me. I started to see as a reset, an opportunity to pause that gave me a chance to stop, reflect, and start again. And you don't really start from scratch. You start from more experience. and you can decide what experience you want to continue with and what you want to leave behind. And if you have been listening to this podcast for a while, you will have heard about so many of the things I have done over the last few years. Looking back, I can see that so many of them were really just me putting my values into practice, choosing to work only for companies whose purpose is generally aligned with mine, exploring my sexuality, creating experiences for myself, like traveling, moving to a different country, trying new things, and stepping outside of what was familiar. The last 8 years have been very intentional and very me. It was about learning to actually live according to my own values rather than living according to what I'm supposed to do or what I should do, because I don't just want to do life. I want to live life. And that includes the wins, the challenges, the messy bits, the failures. I am not aiming for a perfect life because honestly, I don't think there is such a thing. I am aiming for a life that feels like me. And the next time you have to make a difficult decision, use your internal compass, your values. They will guide you towards a decision that is truly yours. That doesn't necessarily mean it will be the perfect decision or that everything will work out exactly as you hoped, but you will know why you made that decision because it was aligned with what you stand for and what matters to you. That was my final words of wisdom for today. And until next week, my friend. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. It honestly means the world to me. If something from today's chat made you smile, think, or feel seen, share it. That's how our Selfish Me community grows. This podcast is about real voices and reminding each other that we are not alone. We are all figuring out how to do life our way, and you are doing better than you think.